Speaking of doing stupid things with oils, let's talk about my friend Peppermint. I have I have a lot of stories actually about doing stupid things. So Peppermint, again, I go to my book and Peppermint, I'm like, oh, that's a safe one. Everybody knows, like, peppermint, the plant. This didn't smell to me like what I was used to. What I was used to peppermint was like a peppermint candle. I loved in the wintertime Yankee Candle, candy cane, sweet, just drippy, syrupy candy smells. This was more mint. It was more medicinal smelling, more earthy. And I thought, okay, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, let's put a little bit on your stomach if you have a tummy ache or wake you up. That's good. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm a little overzealous, but I was like, yeah, let's do it. Put it in, put it all over, and I'm like, oh dear God, now I'm on fire. Because it's like that icy hot, like super cold, super hot. Whatever. I do all this for you guys, right? I do all the things. I make all the mistakes, and then you can go, okay, note to self, don't do that. Yeah, don't put it all over your face just if you want to cool off, if you're new to oils. I'm looking for it. If you're wondering what I'm looking for here, I'm looking in my book. I'm actually in all the disease and malfunctions of the body. My apologies. Give me a second. And so with peppermint, I learned that one was a much easier oil for me to learn. A lot of not very much trial and error, right? Because it's peppermint. I drink peppermint tea. I was like, oh, that's cool because now I don't have to necessarily steep my tea. I can just put it in hot water and, go to town until I say something and someone's like, oh, well, if you boil water and you pour it on the peppermint, all the medicinal properties out, right? And I'm like, I do now. Sigh. Like, have you ever done something you think, I'm just screwing this right and left wrong? This is just going sideways. But I keep after it because, again, I have hundreds of oils in my house. I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do with these things. So peppermint. So then I go back and I look it up. I'm like, okay, so if I want to have peppermint tea, it's like such a dance with me now. Even now, 9 years later, I'm looking at my tea kettle and I crack myself up. Like I boil the water, I do the honey, I put some drops in, and then I take it to the fridge and I do some cold water and I mix it up and I'm like, fingers crossed that when I pour the hot water over the I don't even know. You see, like, the mental gymnastics sometimes you have to go through with this. Anyhow, here we are. It's telling me that it's steam distilled from leaves and stems, and I'm starting to learn constituents, menthol, menthol acetate, and I'm starting to realize, like, okay, these terms are actually good. I was so used to when I heard the word acid, like in chemistry class, you're like, it's acid, it's gonna get on my skin and burn me. No, acid's not bad, whatever. And then I looked here, it says historical data. So now I'm going, wait, what? Hold on. Reputed to be part of the Marseille vinegar or Four Thieves vinegar used by grave robbing bandits to protect themselves during the 15th century plague. A highly regarded digestive stimulant. Jean Valnet, MD, used peppermint to treat liver and respiratory diseases. So I'm like, it says MD after his name, so that must mean something, right? You know how it is when you have an alphabet after your name, everyone's like, they're legit. Okay, that's cool. Medical properties, it goes on and on. Obviously, the anti-inflammatory. I'm not sure what oil isn't anti-inflammatory, to be perfectly honest. Antibacterial, same as I just said. Anti-parasitic, so I'm like, what? And then it's like all this anti. I'm going... Again, looking back, just thinking, what? Really? Like one oil? Okay. I mean, I'm starting to go, this book has a lot of similarities to the research I had found when I wasn't looking up, when I would swipe, no Young Living, no doTERRA, no oil companies, nobody trying to sell me something, legit science. And it was matching up with all the research I had done for 2 years on staving off skin cancer, stopping it, and then curing it. Like, it was all kind of lining up. You know what I mean? So I was starting to go, okay. It was really hard to believe, but okay. But I was lining up. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And then the uses, they was talking about like things like arthritis and infections and obesity and herpes. I'm like, that is not my story. And then the HPV virus, which I was going, that vaccine was starting to come out. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder if the vaccine had peppermint. Like, I'm just kind of wondering. Obviously, digestive problems, headaches, all these kinds of things, nausea, varicose veins, which I have a crap ton of. So now I'm super interested. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, could it be that this could actually help that? Because now all of a sudden I'm looking at some of this stuff, headaches, tummy aches, candida, veins, and I'm going, yeah, okay, I'm down. I could totally get on board with needing this. And so now, I'm using this peppermint for things that actually, or I want to use it for things that might actually help, whatever challenges I'm having. So, I rub it on my neck. I'm like, yeah, that feels really good. I used to get a lot of headaches just from stress. I mean, think about it. I had a kid with cancer. By this point, I had one. I was pregnant with one that had her organs all born outside of her body. Not all of them. They ended up just being the liver, but there's that. So I'd rub it here, and inevitably, I was doing that before bed so I could sleep better, and then I would do this and rub my eyes. And I'm like, oh dear God, I'm going to be blind. My eye was on fire. And then I go splash water on it. Did you know that when you splash water on your eye after you've put an essential oil to it, it actually makes it hurt worse? This was after the lavender incident, which I'll discuss in another segment. I have done that more times than I'm really even willing to admit to you guys. So there's that. The moral of that story is, do not put lavender, peppermint, lemon, any oil in your eyeball, because it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. So peppermint was an oil that I thought, okay, I'm starting to believe some medicinal properties, because here's me, I'm thinking, okay, I can even see rheumatoid arthritis or any sort of arthritis, because when you put peppermint on, it feels cold. Again, it feels a bit like an icy hot. And so that started feeling to me like, okay, yeah, like if my hands, I had carpal tunnel for a long time, being a hairdresser for 100 years. And I would use peppermint and then Panaway, which I'll discuss later. And I thought, okay, that's really feeling better. So I started to make some connections with the healing aspects of it, and even the emotional side of it, which that took me years later to figure out. But I was starting to agree and understand that this would be cool. Side note, I probably would have saved myself and my daughter a whole lot of headache had I gone on to read. So here's what I do. I read about the plant. I read the historical data. The ORAC, at that point I didn't know and didn't care what the ORAC meant or was, because look guys, here's what I'm going to show you. Can you see that funky little, it looks like a U with, I'm like, I can't with that. I have no idea what the hell that means. Why? These books, it's a medical textbook. Like, who reads those? In any case, so I do that, historical data, medical properties, uses. It's resonating with me. I might look up the fragrant influence, because that was kind of cool. Purifies and stimulates the conscious mind. Also, side note was, when I hear the word conscious mind, I'm like, my woo-woo BS meters were firing like crazy, because I didn't know. Conscious mind reminded me of higher consciousness, reminded me of what I, at the time, thought was super nonsense and bullshit, right? So then I was like, okay, I'm out, done. I didn't look at the application section. I didn't look at the cautions. It says, avoid contact with eyes, mucous membrane, sensitive skin, or fresh wounds or burns. Do not apply to infants younger than 18 months of age. Wow. I would have saved myself a whole lot of trouble. But I didn't know what I didn't know. So I'm going to share that with you guys.